Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we actually have some interesting stuff to go talk about over here when it comes to the PlayStation 5 Pro, because duh, it's kind of like, the flavor of the month. But over here, we're actually now seeing a little bit more critique and callouts when it comes to the PlayStation 5 Pro. Now, as you guys probably know, high level, there's been some people critiquing it in terms of how much money it cost, having the fact that it's purely digital, the actual attachment things are extra money, and is it really needed? A lot of that various type of stuff. But one big thing to note too is a lot more people are extra pushing on the fact that it's not as pro-consumer, the fact that there's other big video game companies such as Steam, which will be a mainly one over here, such as the Steamdeck, that just does everything a lot better, the fact that we may not necessarily even need a PS5 Pro, and just all the other various things that I'm sure you guys have heard throughout the little glimpse, and I want to kind of go and summarize it up to a pretty big critique video on the PS5 Pro. Now, it's interesting because in our channel, we do sometimes have the good, where it's hey, here's this really cool update for the PS5 Pro with ray tracing or PSSR, which I kind of like that news a little bit better. I think overall I'm kind of leaning towards a bit more pro on the PS5 Pro, haha. But at the same time, I think it's always nice to have the full perspective, where it's nice to have people that are critiquing it with valid reasons, rather than people just being Xbox is better, hee hee hee, or PS5 Pro expensive, blah blah blah, which, don't get me wrong, is valid for sure, but if it's too expensive, I want to know why, because I do think the value proposition has been pretty well. But there is a few critiques for it, so we're going to talk about it all throughout this video, so give me your thoughts and comments on everything down below. Make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. We do have the Twitter and Twitch room down below if you guys want to follow, and for all the bonus giveaway entries at the 2 Twitters, 2 YouTube accounts, and all that. And of course, if you guys want to pick up your own PS5 Pro, we have all the affiliate links down below. Let's go and dive on into it. So as I mentioned, PlayStation has been kind of on the anti-side. Let's just be realistic here. We just made a video on about 2 days ago or yesterday, talking about the fact that the PlayStation 5 PlayStation Stars Network actually completely stole money from people, quote unquote. Basically just not a good value. They're kind of a little more cheapo. It's not a good vibe. All these brand new games for these games are sometimes get those $10 fees, which I'm okay with, but some people don't like. We had Ghost of Tsushima for the PS5 update was an extra $10, stuff like that. The fact that the consoles are expensive, the limited edition, 30th anniversary editions were expensive, just a lot of these other various things all floating around that people weren't the most happy about. And well, obviously people are also comparing it now to other platforms such as Xbox when it comes to their games and Game Pass, which is also valid, or even other various things such as the Lenovo Go's and Steam Decks. And this is where the article came out, saying Sony could learn a thing about being pro-consumer from Valve. Now, I will also go and agree that Valve is probably the most, in my kind of the pinnacle, it's the pinnacle of all video game companies, where they basically have some of the best customer service. If you want to go and refund pretty much any game on Steam, you can within a 2-hour window. If you've only played the game for under 2 hours, sometimes even if a game's majorly buggy, they'll refund stuff. It's all around pretty nice. Steam, I think, is pretty beloved. They have Steam sales all the time, and while there is some critique, such as them never making a Half-Life 3, spending too much money on microtransactions for CSGO cases, or even Dota, there's a very big various amount of stuff that they could be critiqued on. But overall, in comparison to Sony, most people would assume it's a slightly nicer, more consumer-friendly company. But one thing to note is more on the Steam Deck, which we're going to dive into right now. And if you guys do actually have a Steam Deck, let me know. Saying, since I've gotten my Steam Deck OLED, it's become the console, I'm using that term very loosely here, I use the most. It allows me to play games on the couch, in bed, on the plane, on the bus, I could go on. If I decide to play a game, there's a good chance I'm checking for Steam Deck compatibility, which is true. I actually know quite a few folks who do have Steam Decks, and it's pretty dope. But I'm more of those people who like to play on my PC, and whenever I'm done with my PC, whether it's on Twitch or whatever, then I usually like to, hang out on the couch, my bed, just kind of be off the computer. Right now I'm on the computer at 3 in the morning, made this video. Sometimes I just want to chill and not be around it. But some people don't mind the the Switch or Steam Decks. Saying, to be fair, I have the OLED and not the original LCD model. This is the most recently released version, and I got it because the display is better and has far more battery life. It isn't perfect, but it runs AAA games just fine, and while I'm sure we would all love a Steam Deck with infinite battery life and even a higher resolution graphics, basically just a gaming laptop in all honesty, the OLED was already a significant improvement on the first version. Now, I do want to say the OLED and the Steam Deck has been great. A lot of people like it, and I do think for a console, its price point and everything, it's a pretty good thing. I'd probably recommend it at the end of the day. If they ever make an Steam Deck 2 in the next few years, I'll probably buy one. Or they have an updated version, I will most likely buy one, because why not? But they're also now calling out the PS5 Pro, saying that the PS5 Pro was just too far. saying I could say the same for my PS5, the console I default to for AAA games with more demands on hardware. The console is a powerhouse. Games look incredible, and unlike my PS4, it doesn't sound like an airplane taking off in my living room every time I boot up an open world RPG. And yet, while Valve has explicitly stated that it will not release a new Steam Deck every year because it's not really fair for your customers to come out with something so soon that's only incrementally better. Sony is releasing a PS5 Pro that is, by all accounts, only incrementally better. Now, this is like kind of the big talking point for the video. I know it took a little bit to get to it, but that's like the talking point, is that although there is like a 4-year window, there is still a lot of folks that had to wait 3 years to get a PS5. Or at this point, they're only getting a PS5 Pro because they've realized that it's coming out, like, we knew about the news like a year ago. Like, we were talking about some early leaks. So some people even then were like, I'm just going to wait, which is totally fine. I get it. But I do think it's a little bit of a wider window, so it's somewhat justifiable. Same with how the PS4 and the PS4 Pro was. So I get that a little bit more. But the main, so like for a high level, I do think they waited long enough. I get it. Like, you can only wait a certain amount of time, especially if you want to make a PS6. But not to me super defend it, because I kind of want to focus on the negatives of it, which I do kind of agree on both sides. You know, obviously there's two sides of two coins. But I do want to say, like, that's a very smart thing from Valve, where they're like, it just came out. We don't have to keep on trying to think of more so maybe an iPhone's a better example, is that we don't need to go and keep something every single year. Look at how Call of Duty is. Look at how Assassin's Creed is. Sometimes if you make things every single year, they're trying so hard to improve it that the improvements get lost in the whistle. They'll make weird things like an AI, or they'll make a weird thing like a brand new, slightly better camera, when in theory the last camera is perfectly fine. And that's kind of why I respect Valve, but them just not, like, you know, just chilling. And this has also been a big critique, although it's not, I think, as big as a critique as people expect, because I do think the PSSR and the AI integrations and the better GPU are kind of nice improvements. And as well, like I said, some people haven't even bought a PlayStation yet. But this is a big critique where people are like, we don't really need this. Like, you can either get a PC already, get a Steam Deck already, or even just go and stick on your PS5. Now, I'm also one of those people, I don't mind the PS5 Pro. I'm okay with the PS5 Pro, but I do also understand it's been a niche product, and in theory, it feels like another year with a slightly better GPU and even better, like, you know, GPUs and CPU, and maybe be a little bit more worthwhile. But at the same time, like I said, you got to release it before the PS6 comes out, or else it's kind of just dumb. So, judging from the details we've learned about The Last of Us Part 1 and Alan Wake 2's PS5 Pro enhancements, which we made videos on, the Pro will scale resolutions to 4K with PSSR and simultaneously reach a frame rate of 60 frames per second. For most people, this will be entirely unnoticeable, an almost insubstantial upgrade that, at a mind-boggling price of $700, most people aren't even going to purchase at all. And I do kind of also agree. It's like we already have 60 FPS, but now we can have 4K and the higher fidelity 60 FPS. I'm okay with it because I'm a tech guy. I don't mind it. But I understand the outside perspective where it's like you buy the PS5 and you're good. And I've said this on a lot of my videos. It's okay. You don't always have to buy the PS5 Pro. If you have your PS5, you're happy with it, that's okay. So that's kind of my critique on it. But I mean, I understand why people are saying that, because they're saying a lot of the reactions towards the PS5 Pro was hostile. Fans were furious over the price and the fact that there's barely any games on the platform that will take advantage. And I do agree with that, though, is that I do wish that there was more proper games that will 100% take advantage of it all at the end of the day. Like, that's what they kind of need. But once again, like, I don't know, I do kind of think that it's not too far, but I do think it was just a really weird dynamic. I think if we didn't have the pandemic, people had their PS5s within the first year, I don't think many people would be critiquing this. They'd be like, yeah, that's fine. I had my PS5 for 4 years. I've had mine for a long time, and I'm kind of cool with it. But I also haven't really still been normalized, and it's just a normal current gen. Like, it makes sense. But, yeah. I don't know, like, some people really think it is a step too far. Now, this is going to be a big back and forth. Like, people have been complaining about the price point and the disk drive and all of that. And they're saying, too, like, it's weird. Like, it is a little bit of a weird vibe, but still, it doesn't make it that bad. They're still saying that it's still been egregious, that the base of the product, which is barely dated, which makes sense, doesn't have a lot of big exclusive, which makes sense, and Sony is no stranger to mid-gen tech refreshes, which also does make sense too as well. But at the end of the day, they're just like saying it's not really that needed. But they're also kind of saying this too, that they're not fleecing its customers, things like Steam, and Sony shouldn't either. Basically calling them out that, like, Sony's trying to scam people, that they're taking stuff too far, and they're kind of almost prying on the people who just want a better improvement, or console users in their player base. Saying, according to Valve designer Lawrence Yang, Valve wants to wait for a generational leap in compute without sacrificing battery life before we ship a real second generation of Steam Deck, which I do want to say I respect. They're basically trying to wait for a massive improvement that's going to be good rather than the PS5, which I do think the AI is a big improvement, same with ray tracing, but it's not as big as people expect. That is, of course, the way that companies should be approaching hardware releases. To release a mid-gen refresh at the PS5 Pro's price point with barely any technological improvements is ridiculous, and basically saying it's just too much. Like, they could have made it bigger, they should have waited longer, even wait for the PS6, and they maybe would have sold better, but I feel like the time was crunching and they had to do what they had to do. To say, of course, they're just supplying the product. There are customers that will still buy it, and it's not up to me to decide whether those people are going to like it or not, but the whole thing they think is anti-consumer, creating demand for a more expensive product without even all that much more to use and benefit and play game-wise, etc. And they're saying that once again, capitalism wins and we lose, and Valve is in the right. So I kind of want to hear your thoughts on this, because I do think that the PS5 Pro is okay. I do agree it's expensive, and in all honesty, it probably would have been cooler to have a PSSR for the PS6 instead. But at the same time, like, maybe they're trying to go grow the console market. Maybe they just have the tech ready, they want to make it. Maybe the PS6 will be even better. I don't know. I want to hear your thoughts and comments on everything down below. Subscribe if you guys are new. Subscribe for the second channel, the Twitter, Twitch, all that down below. We also have all the other various links, the affiliate links for the PS5 Pros, and I appreciate y'all for watching. Tell me your thoughts and comments down below.